You dream of a vacation at the bottom of the ocean, but you can't float the bill? Have you always wanted to climb the mountains of Mars, but now you're over the hill? Then come to Recall Incorporated, where you can buy the memory of your ideal vacation cheaper, safer, and better than the real thing. So don't let life pass you by.
What'd you say?
We got a dollar, we got a dollar, we got a dollar, hey, 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 hey. We got a dollar, we got a dollar, we got a dollar, hey, 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 hey.
There's an old joke.
All the Jews are pro-Trump. I guess they're based. No, if they support Trump, it means Trump isn't. You fucking retard. If all the Jews go to Trump's side, that doesn't mean that the Jews became based. It means Trump became gay. Obviously, but so many of you really thought the reverse. Fucking dumb idiot.
Mr. Cuomo?
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel, followed by my 5th trip to Ukraine, 2 of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Mr. Mamdani?
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
No,
as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples, or at their homes, or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
No, as a state with equal rights.
He won't
Not
say it has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his
on
answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No, unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right,
and I want to be very clear. I believe every state should be a state of equal rights.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Girl, downpours are coming, girl, and they're about to rain the house down boots. Rain boots, that is. You're going to need them. We'll kiki more after the break.
I mean, go ahead. You know, if you want.
No, wait. Is that build up of this pie?
Particularly now in computer and internet culture, everything is so fast, and the faster things go, the more we feed that part of ourselves, but don't feed the part of ourselves that likes quiet, that can live in quiet, that can live without any kind of stimulation.
I have a drinking problem? Fuck you, Peck. You're a Mormon.
Ozzy.
Next to you, we all have a drinking problem.
Just because you got a preconceived notion of what I should do, don't mean it's the truth. I'm gonna keep drinking. Woo! Yeah, drinking all the time.
And yeah, it was really, it was just a really kind of.
That's essentially how I feel about life.
Can I trust you? Yes, of course you can trust me. To a point, yeah.
Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews.
Buddy, trust no one, ever.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and
Morgan and
Morgan
Morgan
and
and
Morgan and
Morgan and
Morgan
Morgan and
Morgan
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan. So as my mom and dad would say, right before they tucked us in at night.
Okay, well.
Morgan and 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 Morgan and
Morgan.
It's a family tradition. Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan.
So you just have to hitch yourself to those forces.
Sorry I'm late, I just don't give a fuck.
Guess who kept Daddy up all night?
Tonight I'm going to take a bigger risk than anyone has ever taken on television before.
fuck, man, really?
No need to ask him which water tastes best. Evian, the official water of the CIA.
Shut up! If you just want me to ignore it.
Don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me.
Shut the fuck up, you bald fuck.
Okay, go ahead.
How's that?
Oh, it's kill. I'll never recover from that, Dave. Go ahead, continue. I'll never recover.
Well, you're the one who oh, big boss man, don't tell. I'll tell you, you work for me.
Okay, go ahead, continue.
You little bitch, you work for me.
Sure, you bet.
Would somebody take a lamp or a bottle or something and end this?
You're a bad man.
I'm reckless with my mouth when it gets late at night. I don't want to end up on CNN, okay? Because
You're a very bad man.
And repeat the October 7th massacre again and again and again. Again and again and again.
Shut up! Shut up!
Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler.
Shut the
fucking dumb idiot.
Fuck!
Need to ask him which water.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. In one scientist injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge. In another, doctors exposed indigent cancer patients to excessive doses of radiation, a treatment from which it is virtually impossible that they could ever benefit. The report also demonstrates that these and other experiments were carried out on precisely those citizens who count most on the government for its help, the destitute and the gravely ill. But the dispossessed were not alone. Members of the military, precisely those on whom we and our government count most, they were also test subjects. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment. And that was wrong.
Now, I used to like President Clinton. I once said only he and Ronald Reagan were the great presidents since World War II. But I've had a change of heart, and I think he needs to go away for a long time. And I'm not going to execute him, although I could.
What the fuck?
Under the Supreme Court's ruling. But I think I'll just send him to the Colorado Supermax for the rest of his life. So I've already got a petition ready. I want him to transfer me to Guantanamo.
Holy shit. We might have to send him out to the fucking clinic here, the brain clinic, get him fucking checked out.
Wait.
Oh, wow.
People think we're living in dark times now. Mm-hmm. In the days of Yeshua, you could just kill every male child born under 2 years of age. Now come try to kill my 2-year-old kid now. Ain't no way.
Of course.
Yep, in that culture, that was normal. Crucifixion was a normal way for people to die on a regular basis.
Sure. F***ing savage.
And so you talk about darkness he comes into. Yes, Rome would come to be Babylon and Father Antichrist in my eschatological view. And so but how does he deal with that? He's just bringing the love of the Father into the culture. And he said, I'm going to take these 12 guys right here. I'm going to get them so convinced that the Father loves them that they cannot be stopped.
Wow. When we hit the floor, yeah, we turning hard.
Every superhero has a secret identity. I don't know a single one who doesn't. Who wants the pressure of being super all the time?
We're getting way off fucking topic here. Who the fuck is that? Fuck out of here. Again, I'm so sorry. I get way off topic. A lot. More than I should.
Sometimes I want to scream whenever I think about how crazy the world is.
My sandpaper side engraves a line into the rust of your tongue. Girl, I could have been someone to you. Would have painted the skies blue, baby blue, if you knew.
I just can't, sometimes I can't believe it, and yet I know it's true.
If you had the opportunity to say something to the people at the Central Intelligence Agency who financed this study, what would you say?
I realize the CIA is a very important organization and they have a very important job to do, but God, it surely doesn't have to be done on people who are totally incapable of knowing what's happening or having any defense against it. And I can't imagine the mentality of people who would do this. I just can't.
As for Dr. Cameron, he died in 1966 while mountain climbing. A colleague wrote of Cameron, "For him the ends justified the means, and when one is dealing with the waste of human potential, it is easy to adopt this stance." Dr. Cameron seemed ideally suited for what the CIA had in mind. It was the Cold War, and especially the trial of Joseph Cardinal Mindszenty, who was forced to testify in a Hungarian court that he was a spy. And then later, the Korean War, with the coerced and mainly fraudulent confessions of American servicemen.
My germination took place on the...
That would spark intense interest in intelligence circles about brainwashing. The CIA secretly commissioned a study of communist brainwashing methods at the Cornell University Medical Center. A leader of that study was Dr. Lawrence Hinkle. He explains first the Russian method of controlling and breaking a person.
Absolutely isolated from everyone else, with one man whose job it is to get you to write the extent to which you are a criminal. In this setting, you can get people to do most anything, do you see? Because you don't have to lay a hand. And by the time you get through and you go up before the judge, the fellow says, "Were you a spy?" He says, "Yes, I was a spy." The Chinese never really had this kind of a state police system. They would get him in, and all this fellow does is ask you to write, and rewrite, and talk to him about your whole life.
Graduated from pilot training in 1949.
While the purpose of the study was to find out about communist brainwashing techniques, CIA documents show that the agency was interested in developing mind control methods of its own to precondition and control.
That's called masking. We found that we could get these enormous shifts in voting preferences with no one having the slightest idea that they're looking at biased search results, no one knowing that they're being manipulated. So we got to that point, this was early 2013, and we said, this is important.
What did I just take? What happened? What's going on?
There's that M to the D to the M to the A.
What? Methylene dioxymethamphetamine?
I don't know, dude. That shit's Molly.
You son of a bitch.
What the fuck, Trey?
I don't do that shit anymore. You never hear this after a weekend of doing cocaine. You never hear this. Hey, you guys, I'm really glad we did that.
How's it going, Truman?
Not bad.
I just won the state lottery.
Good, good.
Tyrone, what would you do if I said I didn't want meatball today?
I'd ask for identification. See you tomorrow, Truman.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm aware that no one watches my goddamn videos. It's probably because the
Jewish friends, colleagues, and neighbors against hatred and discrimination.
YouTube is suppressing my videos.
That's not debatable. That is not debatable. They are conspiring with nefarious interests who have a disproportionate amount of power, and their agenda is World War III.
I'm so fucking cool. These videos should have 1 million views. Minimum. I should be rolling in the money, the dough, the cash. The kish. The kish. Not to be mistaken for Kesha, because Kesha, well, who is she anymore? My point is, nobody watches my videos, so I quit. Quit. No, I'm fucking serious. I quit. Do you believe me? Well, you fucking better not. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is going nowhere fast. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, now I remember. Now I remember. Nobody watches my videos.
Okay, you can step aside. I'm taking over this film.
What are you talking about? You can't finish my film.
I can't read your contract.
You promised.
Look, the idea was to show the real me. All right, okay, I may not be perfect, but I don't promote values that help, let me get your quote exactly, that deaden the sensibilities of a great democracy. You're fired, Cliff. You're fired. You're out. Get out of here. Go. Thank you. Goodbye. If it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it isn't.
Welcome back to the thing.
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
It makes no sense.
What the fuck is this?
So I work hard at it, though. You fucking better believe that.
Huh? Let's be honest.
Okay.
I mean, let us be fucking honest. This is a crucifixion. This is political. And don't tell me it's not.
Well, the reasons are quite simple.
You think you're allowed to accuse us of genocide and it's like this? No, sir, it's not. We do not allow you. We're Israel. We're proud of who we are. Anyway,
Okay.
Anyway. Your interview is a propaganda against Israel. Please continue.
But if you're new here, and you're not really sure, like, what this channel's about, you're kind of confused, like, why is he wearing a stupid mask on top of a mask? Just turn your brain off for 5 seconds.
And you keep thinking bad thoughts about me.
People are like, you know what the fuck you're doing? I'm like, yeah, but I'll be there every fucking day.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everybody just stay focused. Remember who you are.
That's pretty cool.
Por eso que no tienes dinero para siempre
Hey! It's you, isn't it? Excuse me? Remember me? 2 days ago, I gave you my meatball sandwich in the park. You were in a wheelchair. Remember? I said, same shoes.
You got the wrong guy, buddy.
It's a miracle!
Man, this shit whack, man. I just see on this shit fun, man. I don't understand. It's like party no fucking good, man. Bitch be calling me tapping that shit, man.
Shut up!
I was not raped. I was not. Don't. I was not raped. Hey, I was not raped.
I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hate this guy.
It was a mutual transaction.
I'm about to hyperventilate. I gotta relax. Shut!
Smash like. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. It'll dig you wonders. Trust me.
What the fuck?
I swear.
Shut up!
You want to know why?
Everything you stand for.
Freedom scares you.
Freedom. You don't want freedom. You want chaos.
Now you're too late. The rebellion isn't here anymore. It's flown away. It's everywhere now. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to disgust you. I hope things work out for you. Rebellions are built on hope.
The time has come for robots. Robots have the benefit of being able to interact with the physical world and do things that otherwise digital information cannot. We know very clearly that the world has severe shortage of human laborers, human workers. By the end of this decade, the world is going to be at least 50 million workers short. We'd be more than delighted to pay them each $50,000 to come to work. We're probably going to have to pay robots $50,000 a year to come to work. And so this is going to be a very, very large industry. There are all kinds of robotic systems. Your infrastructure will be robotic. Billions of cameras in warehouses and factories, 10, 20 million factories around the world. Every car is already a robot, as I mentioned earlier, and then now we're building general robots. Physical AI and robotics are moving so fast. Everybody pay attention to this space. This could very well likely be the largest industry of all.
Well, the robots have arrived, at least in Pasadena, California. That's where the world's first ever fully autonomous AI-powered restaurant has opened, complete with burger-flipping bots. We sent CBS's Joy Benedict on a taste test.
Flippy the chef makes Spud spectacular. This automated grill gives the meat its sizzle. As this restaurant goes robotic.
For this burger, it would take about 120 seconds.
Cali Express by Flippy is the world's first AI-powered eatery. There's new technology outside the kitchen, too.
A cheeseburger.
I'm the only one, but I'm the coldest one. This is got my middle finger up with a cup in the Dutch split. Hand on my nuts when I'm wildin' out in public. Welcome to America. Motherfucker, welcome to America. My middle finger up with a cup in the Dutch split. Hands on my nuts while I'm wildin' out in public. Welcome to America.
Can anybody else see what's happening? Within the next couple of years, nobody's gonna have a job. In this video, in the comment section of the video, and a lot of people that are posting it, everybody's celebrating and they're saying, oh, finally, our orders aren't gonna be wrong. Dude, they're making robots for everything. Your blue-collar job's gonna be gone too. Your white-collar job, those are gonna be gone with AI. There's gonna be no jobs. Nobody's gonna be able to work. This is the beast system rising. Like, pretty soon, they're gonna tell everybody nobody's gonna be able to work. You gotta take a certain mark and you gotta pledge your allegiance to this certain system that's gonna come into place that the Bible talks about. And it's gonna be the start of the 7-year tribulation. This world is headed for the end times. Like, we're at the end. God is coming soon. The rapture it's coming soon. I don't see the rapture not being in our lifetime. It's gonna be in our lifetime. Like, it's ridiculous how people don't look at this and think this is the beast system. Like, if nobody can work, who's gonna be able to pay their bills? That's how they're gonna get you. They're gonna make you have to take this mark or you're not gonna eat. We are in the end times. If you haven't believed in Jesus Christ and his finished work, his bloodshed on the cross for all your sins to be saved, do it now, because this isn't gonna be years down the road. This technology is being used right now. White collar, blue collar, it doesn't matter. Your job's gonna be worthless because a robot's gonna take it over. And then you're gonna have no work. You're not gonna be able to pay to feed your family. And if you're not saved and you're not in the rapture and you don't get taken to heaven, you'll be here when the tribulation starts. And it'll be the 7 worst years of your life in existence. And you're gonna end up taking the mark. Most people will, because they need to feed their families. And if you take the mark, you go to hell. It's an automatic, you automatically get damned to hell when you take the mark. So get saved now before it gets worse.
Hello, fellow children of planet Earth.
Never seen before or heard in this fashion. Convert the work to magic. Bury a beat 6 feet. Pour dirt in a casket. Hard to imitate, I'm cut from a certain fabric. My shirt and slacks, 30 racks. Plus the fur jacket, don't turn it back. No turning back. Forward motion, I pour mimosas. Got me more in focus. Got my foot inside the door.
Well, have you seen this? A shocking discovery in an upscale Rhode Island neighborhood. Police finding human remains on the beach near pop star Taylor Swift's beachfront home. Police say they suspect no foul play after transferring the human leg bone to the medical examiner.
I'm really baffled.
As fears grow of a potential New England serial killer. Yikes. John?
We got here faster than I thought we would in this conversation.
All I ever wanted was a black grand national. Fuck being rational. Give them what they asked for. It's not enough. Few solid niggas left, but it's not enough. Few bitches that are really stepped, but it's not enough.
I came to Israel on the 9th of October, and I've been covering the war ever since. I've met with victims of the atrocities committed on that day, their families. And I remember very well that for the first weeks, Israel received an outpouring of support and global sympathy. It was extremely touching to see how most of the world sympathized with you after the Hamas attacks on October 7th. Fast forward nearly 600 days into this war, Israel is now facing a wave of global condemnation. How did Israel lose all that global support, and why is it being condemned now? What happened?
Strength. When Jews, not only now, but in the past as well, and I can tell you my family's history as well, when Jews are being butchered, massacred, dead Jews are loved Jews, and the world sympathized with them. I made a promise to my grandfather that we will never be victims again. We will never be at the mercy of any ruler or any government. We will forever be able to stand by ourselves independently to protect our children. So when we are capable of strength, of showing that we are capable of defending our children, the world doesn't like strong Jews.
You will find there an extraordinary information. There will be 2 big buildings in the land of Edom, which today we relate the word Edom to America. And those are the biggest, the tallest buildings in the world. And they will be brought down completely. And that will be the sign of the beginning of tremendous wars that will end only in the coming of the Mashiach. 1 week before, one of the great rabbis in Israel, a Hasidic rabbi, he came with some people, some of his disciples in the car, and they were coming towards the evening. He didn't want to lose the time of mincha, the prayer of the afternoon. He said, please, can you stop right here? I want to daven, I want to pray mincha here. They prayed mincha with minyan in front of everybody passing in Manhattan. Where? Right there, near the World Center. After he finished the davening, the prayer, he said, say bye-bye to those buildings because you are not going to see them no more.
Say bye-bye to those buildings because you are not going to see them no more.
How about the stuff we see in Auschwitz, what we see in Hollywood movies, what we see in the Holocaust Museum in Washington today? Is that not a Nazi gas chamber?
Hollywood movies, we put it aside, okay? You said, what do we see in Auschwitz? So of course I went to Auschwitz and I saw a room which was presented to us tourists as a gas chamber. But I found something suspect about this, and I remember it was in '75. I asked an official of the museum to come with me, and I asked him some questions about the place. And the man who first had said I remember his name. His name was Mashawek. He was 54 at the time. Said that it was perfectly genuine. And I trapped the man, and he had to confess, he blushed, and he had to confess that it was a reconstruction. And I said, okay, a reconstruction. It means that you have plans. I want to see those plans. And I cannot get into the details, but that's the way I found the plans of those places, and those places had never been gas chamber. It's very difficult to gas someone, you see, because if you use hydrocyanic acid, you need something extremely sophisticated. I even went to visit in United States, in Baltimore, for example, an American gas chamber, to have an idea of how can you gas someone with hydrocyanic acid or Zyklon B without gassing yourself. Now, this is for Auschwitz. So in Auschwitz, what you see, what the tourists see, is only something which was a morgue, and then it was transformed in an air raid shelter. It was never a gas chamber and could never have been used as a gas chamber. You have a poor little tiny door with glass, and it would have been broken by the prisoners in it. The gas would have gone to the SS hospital at 20 meters there. It's a physical and chemical impossibility.
Whistleblowers are protected by law, and the reason is simple and understandable. We must be able to count on disclosures from rank-and-file employees in order to conduct our oversight and hold people accountable for wrongdoing. The whistleblowers we will be hearing from today have identified and described egregious abuse, misallocation of law enforcement resources, and misconduct within the leadership ranks of the FBI. In short, the leadership in the FBI is politically corrupt. And they are ruining our flagship law enforcement agency by targeting politicians, parents, and ordinary citizens. The eye of Sauron, in other words, has been turned on the American people, and it is a frightening time in which we live.
I'm sure the sun will rise tomorrow, but the victory of the liberators of Europe, whether they come from the east or whether they come from the west, is a Jewish victory. And that victory is the end of our civilization, the end of Christianity, the end of 2,000 years aspiration towards something better. And all that will be wiped out and washed out. And it will disappear as Babylon disappeared, as Athens disappeared, and as Rome disappeared. And we shall be plunged into a dark and barbarous era because we will not have shown ourselves capable of defending that civilization, because we will not have been able to add our little link to the long chain of progress that our ancestors have handed on to us. And it's no good remaining in one's house in the smug comfort of bourgeois principles when the very foundations of civilization are rocking under it. It's just as useless to try and read the future in the bottom of coffee cups that have contained Surrogate coffee, or by night in sitting up late and trying to study the stars to find out who'll win the war. It's also quite silly to think that somehow or other everything will work out all right, because if one takes the trouble to study history after the passage of the barbarians, whole civilizations, their languages, and their people have completely disappeared from the face of the globe, like a sandcastle, been flattened out by the waves of the sea on the seashore. But Mr. Roosevelt is building a lot of aeroplanes. We can't stop him doing it. But the English are preparing to invade Europe. We can't stop them trying. But the Russians have crossed the Polish border. It's very regrettable, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't stop, as I've said, and many with me, for over 10 years. But Mr. Roosevelt and his Jews of a festering store of humanity, that the plutocrats of London wanted this war. Well, now they've got it. And that the communists are the greatest danger civilization has ever been faced with since the days of the destruction of Rome.
The strange paradox that on the one hand you've got any number of documents that document and authenticate the shootings on the Eastern Front, and on the other hand you haven't got a single document that authenticates Auschwitz as a killing center or extermination camp. Not a single document that shows that that building, Crematorium 2, in Auschwitz, was a purpose-built death chamber. And in his judgment, Judge Gray said, well, I have to admit that I, like most people in this country, I suppose, had always thought that there was any number of documents in that direction that supported that view. And I was rather surprised, he says, that the evidence given to me by the defense was that there were no such documents, as Mr. Irving said. However, the eyewitnesses all confirm and bear out that this building was a purpose-built gas chamber. The holes in the roof through which the cyclone was poured do not exist. As the defense's own witness, Van Pelt, testified in his own report, he admitted the holes aren't there. But the judge then went on to say, however, the 5 eyewitnesses confirmed that the holes were there, and therefore they were. He disregarded the literally concrete evidence of the roof, which is still there, and preferred to believe the eyewitness evidence of 5 witnesses who weren't produced in court. One in particular, Ada Bimco, who said that she had seen the cyanide. She said that I was taken into one of the gas chambers by a friend who was an SS officer. Oh, yes. Ada Bimco, whose name now is Hannah Rosensaft, and she's a member of the governing body of the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington. She said, I was taken in there by a friend who was an SS officer, and he showed me the giant cylinders containing the gas. Hello? The gas, allegedly, in the authenticated Wiesenthal Center version, came in tins, rather like Heinz Bean's. What's all this about the giant cylinders of gas and pipes that she describes in her eyewitness testimony, as a result of which several men were hanged by the British in Hamburg after the war? Tesch and Weinbach, for example, the 2 officials of the company that made these cyclone pellets, which were pesticide pellets, they were hanged by the British for this, on her evidence. She wasn't produced in that courtroom. She wasn't cross-examined. Just a statement by her, sworn on oath, was produced. And that was the way these war crimes trials were conducted.
And this is why the Holocaust legend has survived until now, because nobody has come forward really with any kind of credibility and has rattled at the foundations of that legend and said, okay, prove it. Explain to me, for example, how it's possible to gas millions of people in gas chambers and yet leave no significant residue of the poison gas used, hydrogen cyanide, in the fabric of that gas chamber. Our opponents say, hey, 50 years later you don't expect to find residues of a gas in a gas chamber. The answer is you do. Any chemist worth his salt will confirm it. In a gas chamber which has been exposed to hydrogen cyanide gas over the years, over 40 or 50 years, you're still going to find residues of that totally permanent compound, ferric ferrocyanide, which is otherwise known as Prussian blue. In fact, it's so permanent a stuff that it's a dye stuff. It's the blue dye stuff known as Prussian blue. Substance which should be in the walls of the gas chambers, even now 50 years later, and yet it's not there. Although allegedly millions of people have been gassed in these buildings using hydrogen cyanide. And we can prove it should be there because just a few hundred yards away in the Auschwitz complex is a little gas chamber, which looks like a gas chamber. This one's got gas-tight doors and a peephole and rails for little railings for carrying in the racks full of clothing because it was used for fumigating clothing, the prisoners' clothing. And the walls of that little gas chamber in Auschwitz are so soaked with ferric ferrocyanide that on the outside of the gas chamber walls you can see the blue stain seeping through. And colleagues of mine back in February 1988 took samples from that gas chamber illegally. They hammered and chiseled away samples of the brickwork from that, and samples from brickwork of the other gas chambers where allegedly millions of people were gassed, and they took them illegally back to the United States, and these 40 samples from the little gas chamber here, the fumigation one, and the big lethal one, allegedly, samples were taken back to the United States and tested by qualified American forensic laboratories for the concentration of cyanide still found in them. And in this little one, which was used for fumigating clothing, they found no fewer than 141 milligrams of cyanide residue per 1 kilogram of brickwork. A colossal concentration. You can actually see the blue stain on the wall still. And yet in the buildings where they had allegedly murdered millions of people with cyanide gas, there's not the slightest significant trace of cyanide residue. When I saw those forensic reports, that's what tilted me into becoming a hardcore disbeliever in the Holocaust.
I'm talking about.
You want to go to jail? Like, what do you want? Like, those guys.
You are defending this guy Mick for what he said right after that happened. He's not anti-Semitic.
I'm not defending him. No,
if your brain goes in,
I'm not defending him, Dave. What I'm saying is, you should have him on here or somebody else like that and fucking fight with them, because then you have a conversation.
That's what this idiot wants.
Dave, these guys that wrote the thing at the bar, fuck the Jews, right?
Yes.
You're going to fucking fly them to Auschwitz. Some guy tweets at you something. You want to fucking... He's not...
Kirk,
you can't come on
it was a bar I owned. It was a bar I owned.
They should have been kicked out. So, but my thing is...
No, it's not just kick out, Kirk. Are you ignoring what's going on in the world
No,
right
I'm
now?
not. What, Dave, what do you want to do with those guys? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with those guys at the bar? Put them in jail for 50 years? Fine. I don't care.
I didn't say that. You're quite literally changing everything you say, Kirk. If you just want me to kick him out, not mention it, not care that this kid is anti-Semitic, shut up. If you just want me to ignore it,
don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me.
Shut the fuck up, you bald fuck.
Okay, go ahead.
How's that?
Oh, it's kill. I'll never recover from that, Dave. Go ahead, continue. I'll never recover.
Well, you're the one who big boss man, don't tell. I'll tell you work for me.
Okay, go ahead, continue.
You little bitch, you work for me.
Sure, you bet. For now,
oh, you
continue.
Don't? For now, quit. I don't care.
Is this show or not a show? Like, is a show or not a show? Like, we can't have a conversation?
You're an idiot.
Okay, continue.
You're literally saying people should be allowed to make Jew jokes, say whatever they want right fucking now. That's
yes, I think people should be allowed to make jokes.
So how many motherfucking Jews have to be killed before you stop?
Shut the fuck up!
You have no right to take me.
Shut up! Will you shut up?
You're a bad person. You see, when you fight a war, you do use lies. Churchill was the biggest liar. What is rather like a flywheel begins to spin. It's set in motion by the propaganda ministerium, by the propaganda officials, whatever they're called. In England, they were called the Political Warfare Executive, PWE. Some of our most important subsequent politicians, like Richard Crossman, were leading figures in PWE, and they set out the lies that persuade the soldiers that the war is worth fighting. And they create the war aims for the soldier. We British, we never had war aims, of course. We went into the war ostensibly because of Poland, but by 1939, by the end of that year, of course, that war aim had completely vanished. Poland had gone up the spout or down the tubes, whichever the way you care to look at it, and invaded from the east by the Russians, from the west by the Germans. Poland as such had ceased to exist. By the spring of 1940, really, the war had no further point. So Churchill, when he became Prime Minister, set up the big lie that the British Empire was endangered, that Hitler planned to attack the British Empire, that he was going to invade Britain, and then this made the war of great import for Britain. We had to fight, otherwise it meant perdition and oblivion for ourselves. Of course, the Americans weren't interested in preserving the British Empire, quite the opposite. We find out that President Roosevelt was saying in the spring of 1942 that his great dream and ambition is the destruction of the British Empire, beginning with India. He says that in a cabinet meeting in May 1942, and one of his secretaries of state, the vice president, in fact, Henry Wallace, wrote that down in his private diary. The destruction of the British Empire was the president's aim, and that man was our ally. How extraordinary. And yet we find at the same time now in the German papers, the secret German records of the time, and also pale reflections, pale echoes in the British papers, we find that at the same time Hitler was telling us, both before the war and during the war, right through 1940, indeed right through to May 1941, the famous mission of Rudolf Hess, Hitler was telling us that he had no aims against the British Empire at all. No desires, no wishes, no claim on the British, although we declared war on him. He wanted, in fact, the British Empire to remain as a great force for world civilization and stability. He said in private, as I know from his private staff, again and again, what point would there be for me to destroy Britain now or to attack London, the heart of the British Empire? If I destroy Britain, as I can, the only beneficiaries, the people who will make benefit from the British Empire will be the Americans and the Japanese. And what purpose have I got in wasting good European blood to benefit those two races? Again and again, he said both in private and through intermediaries to the British that he wanted to help the British Empire, even after the war had begun. He sent secret people across, he sent messages, he approached the ambassadors of the British in their various far-flung capitals and said, I make no claim on Britain or the British Empire. I am prepared to withdraw the German forces from Poland and Czechoslovakia, apart from the territories that, of course, the whole war was about in the first place, the former German territories that he had recovered. He was going to withdraw his armies from France. Of course, he wanted a free hand in the east, but why should that concern us? But of course, the trouble was that we were being told something completely different in England. We were told that Hitler was determined to destroy Britain and the British Empire. This was the great lie that Churchill set up through until the end of 1941, when, of course, the Americans came in, who were not concerned with preserving the British Empire. In fact, they were quite frankly telling Churchill that we weren't going to get Hong Kong back, we weren't going to get Singapore back, we weren't going to get India back. None of this was going to be returned to us after the war. The Americans were bent on destroying it. So gradually and imperceptibly, a third war aim emerged, rather like two television pictures, one melting into the other. And by the end of the war aim has become fighting the devil incarnate, fighting the man who did all this. And all this, of course, we didn't know what it was at the time, but lo and behold, when we marched into Germany, we found what all this was. It was Bergen-Belsen, it was Dachau, it was Buchenwald, it was the awful pictures of bodies of emaciated, starved, infected people being bulldozed into lime-filled pits by British Army bulldozers in the concentration camps. Of course, nobody claimed that this kind of starvation, this kind of killing or death on this scale had been going on throughout the war in those camps, but this was the picture that was put to the British in the newsreels, in the cinemas, in the newspapers. Vivid, ghastly pictures, which seemed to justify, in retrospect, by their sheer bedazzlement, the war that we had fought. Suddenly, it all seemed worthwhile because we saw what had been going on in Germany. And nobody asked logical questions like, surely all this kind of death on this scale only happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Or, if people died of typhus and starvation in Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald, then possibly weren't we British and Americans partly responsible because we deliberately produced the chaos and the conditions behind the German lines that led to starvation and typhus epidemics, because we deliberately bombed the pharmaceutical factories, we bombed the bridges, the railroad lines, the autobahns, to prevent the transportation of food from one part of Germany to another. But of course, those are logical questions, and in the heat of an aftermath of a bloody war, you don't ask logical questions. You're out for revenge. You're thirsting for revenge.
How much were you paid to kill?
$5,000.
At 60?
That's correct.
How did you kill him?
I walked up behind him and I shot him in the back of the head.
Why did you kill him?
Because I was paid.
Do you know what he did?
I didn't ask. It was none of my business.
Who hired you? Not the name of the man. I mean, was it an organization?
It was part of an organization, yes.
Did they tell you why he was going to die? You didn't ask?
No. It was none of my business. You ain't supposed to ask. They offer you a job, you take the job, you do it. You don't take the job, you don't do it. It ain't your business to know, unless it happens to be somebody where, as you go by, you get a reputation. What does, and they're gonna knock somebody down, and somebody you happen to know, they'll tell you you know him, and they'll give you the option. Well, if by the description of what they tell you, you figure you know the person, you say, well, I ain't too interested.
How did you feel when you killed somebody?
No, the
very first time.
I don't know. I guess I was a little shook. But after that, it didn't bother me.
Did your conscience hurt?
No.
Could you sleep?
Yeah. I didn't sleep too good the first night. I tossed and turned for a while, make sure that I got rid of the gun and everything. I make sure everything. I went over everything in my mind, make sure I did it all right. And then after that, and then I was pretty sure that the next day, when no coppers came looking for me, everything was all right.
Did you ever wonder about that person? He had a wife or children, or?
I don't worry about any of them. The same as if somebody comes after me, he ain't gonna worry about me.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Meet the man inspiring the next generation of MAGA, Curtis Yarvin, who thinks America should no longer be a democracy. Even before Trump's re-election, he envisioned a fantasy world where Trump was president again. and with chilling accuracy described how he would take aim at public and private institutions without any interference from Congress or the courts.
Obviously, I'm not the secret mastermind of the Trump dance administration.
You're not? I thought there was a hotline.
The software engineer and blogger has been called the father of dark Enlightenment political theory. That means he thinks democracy is overrated, and what the U.S. needs is a king.
A monarch, a single focus of authority is, absolutely necessary to run any integrated system efficiently. You could probably put any of the Fortune 500 CEOs in and say, okay, you're in charge of the executive branch, fix this.
What the fuck is your...
They'd probably do fine. They wouldn't be Hitler or Stalin.
And he's got some powerful people listening.
I think you're pretty far out in a way that is worth thinking about.
There's this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's written about some of these things.
Years before Elon Musk and Doge, Yarvin coined the phrase RAGE, retire all government employees. Next, he sees a world where the power is not with the people.
Should there be, though, elections in your world of a sovereign CEO?
There needs to be a way of basically holding the sovereign CEO accountable.
But not every single person should have a vote.
I have 4 beautiful children. None of them have a vote.
Experts in democracy like Harvard professor Daniel Allen, who publicly debated Yarvin, say his ideas are dangerous.
It is not the case that autocracies over the course of history have delivered good for human beings. They have consistently violated freedom.
Not surprisingly, Yarvin is no stranger to controversy. He's been accused of using racist tropes and whitewashing history.
Certain races are better at certain things than others.
Do you not necessarily believe, then, that certain races would be better at governing a country than others?
Again, governing a country is just a skill. And, it's like the British in India would basically say, oh, this race is a governing race, this race is not a governing race, based on culture, based on tradition, based on biology.
So you're saying, yes, certain races would be better at running governments than others?
Would be better at doing anything, but those are only averages.
As for Trump, Yarvin says the administration is still not going far enough in harnessing executive power.
You laid out how you thought things could be done in a way that were fast, that may be a little bit dirty, and some of the things they do seem to be doing there in the White House. Are you not pleased with how they're doing it?
No, because I think that if you basically take anything complicated and you try to do 10% of it, you're not going to 5% or maybe 1%, you're probably not going to result in anything good.
Instead, Yarvin is looking to younger generations.
I think most of my influence on sort of the Trump administration is less through the leadership and more through like kids in the administration who read my kind of stuff because my audience is very young.
Scientific research, and you'll discover that the idea that the Earth is like billions of years old is totally impossible, and the theory of evolution is not backed up by any scientific science whatsoever. The more you look into it, the more you realize that the Bible is 100% true, and according to the Bible, the Earth was created 6,000 years ago. Adam and Eve were the first humans, and they were created, and Satan is now trying to destroy every descendant of Adam and Eve. He will therefore have wiped out mankind, and that's what this transhumanism crap is about, because when we start taking on elements of machines, we are no longer human, and Satan's done his job. He's wiped out all of Adam and Eve's descendants.
I'm an alien, and I keep telling people I'm an alien, but they don't believe me.
I believe you.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you. That's my suspicion all along, was that
I'm
you were
just
an
trying
alien.
to get back to my home planet.
Have you ever had that feeling where you just kind of want to start over completely? Maybe go somewhere new where people don't know you yet? Make some major changes?
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
But is there a line? You know, maybe
you go too far and you discourage the next Charlie Parker from ever becoming Charlie Parker?
No, man, no. Because the next Charlie Parker would never be discouraged.
Yeah.
The truth is, Andrew, I never really had a Charlie Parker. I tried. I actually fucking tried. And that's more than most people ever do. I will never apologize for how I tried.
Historical events that happened to the Jewish people when they were in this type of business. It's not the first time. Am Yisrael, unfortunately, has a history of being in the lending business in such a fashion that we're known as predatory lenders throughout all of history. It's not a new thing. So much so that Shlomo HaMelech 3,000 years ago forbid lending. Shlomo HaMelech made a takana, he's not allowed not to do it. Shlomo HaMelech already dealt with this problem. 900 years ago, we had a massacre in England because of our lending. One of the reasons why the Nazis, Yimach Shimam v'Zichram, justified murdering and massacring us and so on is because of lending practices we had. Part of it was true. Part of the stuff that they blamed us to do was true. We did charge high rates. We did do certain things that were wrong. We can't just say, oh no, it's all fake. It's not all fake. There are certain things that are historical validations. And the reality is, every single time we were in a position of power, it's because there were a few Jews that were lending money to the Goyim, and many times it happened that they charged them high rates, and the Goyim got angry, and they revolted. Why? Nobody wants to pay the high interest. So what do? Instead of paying the interest, they kill you. Simple. All of the Jewish people, they are part of creating the next Holocaust that's coming to America. They are creating the next Holocaust that's coming to America. Why? History shows us what we've done, what transpired. What we've done, what transpired, what we're doing, and what's transpiring. Cash advance business rise, anti-Semitism rise. You see how the world is operating. The corruption is rising, and they're destroying the people. They're destroying society. They're destroying small businesses. The average consumer defaults on a loan, is forced to take another loan, and is in essence in a never-ending battle against paying interest, and that's why it's called a predatory loan. It's a loan that kills its owner.
Where was God during the Holocaust? Now, if I told you that the Holocaust was the best possible thing that could have happened to the nation of Israel, most people would say, you're crazy, you're like Hitler, and they'll say crazy things. They'll think that I'm anti-Semitic. But the truth is that that's a fact. Why? Because all God does is good. That's a Gemara Meforeshet. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. Everything that God does is the best. There is nothing better, which means that the Holocaust was the best possible choice we as a nation had at that time.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Based on our decisions, that was the best possible thing that could possibly be. So when a person looks at the entire picture, or at least as much of the picture as available to us as human beings, he realizes that whatever Hashem chose is certainly the best. It's just that sometimes we merit to see those other parts. But we're supposed to have that faith even when we don't see that part.
The biggest enemies of the Jewish people are the Jewish people. Why Hitler hated Jews? You're not going to believe it. What is the main reason he hated the Jews? Who knows what's the reason? According to what he was reading from his book. He wrote in his book, the Jews are the biggest threat. Why? Because they are communists. They are anti-God. They are the enemies of God. Well, the Jews that he knew, most of them, that's what they were. And he started to describe how they made the revolution in Russia. And he started to give proofs that the Jews are a big danger to Germany. Bolsheviks. They are the biggest threat to Germany. If we don't kill them now, they'll kill us all. They'll do to us what they did in Russia. That's what he wrote in his book. I never knew it until a few days ago. Not once in my life I heard it. Not in my school, not in articles. Did you ever hear such thing? He was reading it from his book. He's writing. He say why he hated us. Why? Because we went away from Hashem. If we were all righteous and living according to the Torah, and we wouldn't push our nose to become communist and anti-God, maybe it would not happen. Maybe yes, maybe not. That's only Hashem knows. But at least he declared in his main book what's the reason he hated the Jews so much.
Are you okay, brother?
I'm not your brother.
Well, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Bitch, I see what you did there. I know.
They accuse Adolf Eichmann of exterminating 3 million Jews. Now, you have read the papers and you've stated in the Journal of Historical Review.
6 million Jews.
Oh, he's supposed to 6 million himself? I thought he himself was responsible for that.
Let me say two things about this. First of all, the man who raised that allegation against him was the commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss.
Right.
Now, Rudolf Höss stated this in his memoirs written in Polish captivity when he'd been brutally beaten by the Poles and by the British on being taken prisoner in 1945. Why Rudolf Höss wrote these figures in his memoirs, we don't know. Why do people write confessions? Why did the Russian generals write confessions in the show trials? Why did Hungarian Minister of the Interior, Laszlo Wright, write a confession in 1949 to things that they never committed, although they know they're going to be hanged for it? Yeah. This is one of the great mysteries which it would take a psychiatrist to answer, not a historian. But what I can say is that in Adolf Eichmann's private papers, which I have, Eichmann says Rudolf Höss, the commandant of Auschwitz, is out of his mind. Where does he get these figures from? Yeah. For me to have 2.8 million Hungarian Jews in Auschwitz, which is one of the claims, I would have had to ship 7 or 8 million Hungarian Jews to Auschwitz, because of course they didn't kill them all, they only killed allegedly the ones who were too old and unfit to work.
Yeah.
To ship 7 or 8 million Jews from Hungary to Auschwitz, first of all, there weren't that number to start with. Right. Secondly, what about the transport movements? Does Mr. Höss have any notion at all of the number of trains I would have had to organize? Yeah. Empty trains coming back, full trains going out, turnaround time on the rails. He said it just couldn't have been done. And the second interesting thing I've got, when you're notorious, is that people then come to you with little brown paper parcels with packages of documents for you. And somebody came to me in London a few months ago and he said, Mr. Irving, I've got this for you. I bought it in a bookshop in Germany, in a flea market. It's Rudolf Höss's memoirs, the commandant of Auschwitz. Not Rudolf Hess, Rudolf Höss, a different man completely. His memoirs, what he wrote in Poland, translated into German, printed in German, published by the Institute of History in Munich. And this isn't just any copy of that book, this is Adolf Eichmann's copy of the book, because in the margin is Adolf Eichmann's handwriting. Yeah. And he's written here, he says, this is total rubbish. Yeah. I never, but Rudolf Höss says, Eichmann came to me and said that he had this order to give me from Adolf Eichmann. And Eichmann writes in the margin, this is total rubbish. I never gave an order to Höss from Himmler in my life. And the handwriting has been certified by the German Federal Archives as being authentic Adolf Eichmann. So this is another piece of proof. This is what the historians are unwilling to do. When it comes to the word Holocaust, they put the blinkers on and think, yes sir, 6 million is it? All right, 6 million it is. Oh, Auschwitz, it wasn't 4 million, it was only 1 million. All right, we'll wipe off the 4 million, change it to 1 million, but we'll still keep the 6 million figure, shall we?
That's right.
And that's what the historians have done, and they got away with it. And then when somebody like me comes along and says, come on fellas, let's be a little bit objective here. I find I'm not just being slapped on the wrist, I'm being fined $20,000. By the German government. The German government, who should be the ones who are applauding, saying, thank God someone's coming to take this blood libel off the name, not only of the 70 or 80 million Germans now, but there's 70 or 80 million Germans who've died since the end of World War II. In Australia at this moment, there's a Mrs. Altman waiting to interview me on television because she's one of your professional Holocaust survivors. She's got the tattoo on her arm, and when I was banned from Australia early this year, she was on every channel showing off that tattoo. Yeah. And when I now get down to Australia, in March next year, it's been delayed because I had to fight 2 federal court actions against the Australian government and win, because we've got the law on our side. I will come up against Mrs. Altman in the television studios without question. And I'll say, Mrs. Altman, will you please tell the Australian television viewers how much money you personally have made since 1945 as a Holocaust survivor? And she's going to be embarrassed to admit it, because it's in the order probably of £500,000 that she personally has made as a Holocaust survivor. And yet the Australian soldiers who suffered in the Japanese prisoner of war camps, or the German civilians who saw their families being burned alive before their eyes, they suffered. But no one's paying them any money for their suffering. There's only one category of person worldwide who is making money, making big business out of having suffered.
Barry?
I know this is crazy, but if I could just stay here.
Let's go.
Really?
I talk at night. Each butterfly's a moth that can't stand light. SSRIs.
I'm gonna have to kill Goose now.
It's a band-aid for my mind, but it's alright. That's what she'll tell you when she leaves your life, and you'll just die.
Oh, wow.
But in the end, this time.
Let me just paraphrase, if I could, what you told us so far. The state of Israel has no legitimacy. It shouldn't exist at all. Sure. That Jews are responsible for rivers of blood, as you put it, in the Palestinian lands. That the Holocaust is not sufficient reason to override the basic Jewish premise that the Jews should not have a land of their own. I may not have quoted you entirely accurately, but even if someone like me were to even hint at thinking like that, I would be branded anti-Semitic. I would be vilified in the mainstream media. Yes, so the question is, are you anti-Semitic?
That is the beautiful ploy of Zionism, that they can intimidate anybody who stands in opposition to their blatant, inhumane treatment of the Palestinians. And mind you, we will show you with God's help that they're brutally beating the Jewish inhabitants, who nobody can accuse us of being armed or militant. And yet you can see that the Jews are brutally beaten simply because they're standing in Palestine, because there's masses, tens of thousands of Jews who stand out and demonstrate, and they get brutally beaten because they're opposing the existence of the state, and they want the world to know.
They get brutally beaten by the Israeli state.
By the Israeli, I could see it on our site and links, but you could just see, and simply they're standing there, non-militant, who never carry arms, and this is what happens.
The majority of people reading English language newspapers, watching English language television, as being prima facie anti-Semitic. How does that make you feel, that what you believe to be a true representation of your religion is being portrayed in the media as actually being completely contrary to that?
Yeah, well, that's part of the tragedy, that the media has been, unfortunately, we feel, sometimes owned and sometimes intimidated in a large manner by Zionism, in which they have media watch, just like they have AIPAC, that affects politicians, are fearful of speaking against the Zionist actions or whatever they do because they're labeled anti-Semitic. Anybody can go and to come to New York. We invite anybody who wants to come to Manhattan. I don't give visas, but if anybody who comes to Manhattan, goes across the bridge, and they'll see the largest Jewish communities. And here, this is in Washington, D.C., when President Obama, when Netanyahu came to visit President Obama, you'll see tens of thousands of Jews go out, demonstrate against the existence of the state of Israel and their actions, what they're doing, and nobody reports. Washington Post, New York Times, has never reported. It's unbelievable. And when the Zionists make a little demonstration of 50 people, they're there. This is never seen.
Okay.
So
sorry to keep interrupting. We're sort of running out of time a little bit. I want
that you're saying that we're anti-Semitic. The most, all the charitable organizations, all the Jewish growth and that flourishes is from these communities. And we, so not only we're not anti-Semitic, we are concerned about all the Jews.
Are you
for them.
Are you a self-hating Jew then?
Because we are concerned for the life and spiritual and physical of the Jewish people. We're saying they're causing bloodshed. Remove this impediment to peace, and we can live together, Muslims and Jews and Christians together in peace. We pray for the speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the state.
Half the crap you say is BS.
What are you jumping down my throat for? You and your Palestinian crap.
What Palestinian crap? What are you talking about?
You're framing a horrible narrative, Piers.
Go on, explain to me.
That is like, you're allowing like just the worst conversations with the worst people.
Really?
And I know you have to. And I guess I respect you for having to do it because otherwise you wouldn't be allowed on the media. Nobody like me is ever going to comment. They're not going to allow me to comment.
You're literally on a show called...
That's why I'm happy you have me on, because I would like to comment.
I'm literally allowing you right now. If you want to talk about the Israel-Hamas war, talk about it now. Don't shut the fuck up.
I'd like to give my opinion based on the Bible.
Holy shit. So from the Rothschilds to the Lee family are protected by the 9 Black Greek secret societies of black fraternities and black sororities. Well, in the 1969 book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi, Alpha Phi Alpha protects the Rothschilds. Kappa Alpha Psi protects the Oppenheimers. Omega Psi Phi protects the Warburgs. Phi Beta Sigma protects the Rockefellers. Iota Phi Theta protects the Astor family. Alpha Kappa Alpha protects the Bilderbergs. Delta Sigma Theta protects the Habsburg family that exists to this day. Zeta Phi Beta, another Boule secret society, protects the Sassoons, and Sigma Gamma Rho, RHO, protects the Lee family. Wait a minute now.
Since 1953, every chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, the head of the central bank in America, has come from the Council on Foreign Relations. Do you realize that every head of the Arms and Disarmament Agency in the United States since 1953 has come from the CFR? All but one Secretary of State, all but one Assistant Secretary of State, all but one Director of the CIA since 1953 has come from the Council on Foreign Relations. And furthermore, 7 of the last 9 presidents came from the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations is America's invisible government that's running the world. And people say, no. The Council on Foreign Relations just is for America. It's the Bilderbergers, because the Bilderbergers combines the people of great wealth in America and the socialists in America, and they work with the Europeans, and they meet on a regular basis, and they pick our presidents, and Bill Clinton was picked by the Bilderberger group, and people said, no. It's the Trilateral Commission, because that includes the people from the Orient and from Japan and from the Pacific Rim. And this is an international movement towards world control. And others will say, oh no, it's the Illuminati. It's the Illuminati. In fact, haven't you ever looked on the back of a dollar bill? You look on the back of that dollar bill, and what do you see there? You see the pyramid with the all-seeing eye over the top of that, and that's the symbol of the Illuminati. You see that? The number down underneath it says 1776, and that was the date that the Illuminati was founded. But the problem with that is that the Great Seal of the United States, from which this occult emblem came, and it isn't a cult emblem, and that's not the eye of the god that we worship. That's the sun god. If you read occultist, that's the eye of Horus. That is indeed the eye of Lucifer that's on the back of the dollar bill. But this design, at least the great eye, was actually suggested in 1790, just 4 years after the Illuminati was founded. It didn't have its tentacles into America at that time. This was actually put on the back of the Great Seal of the United States in 1782, just 6 years after the Illuminati was founded. And the 1776, from the very inception, when they were designing the Great Seal, had to do with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The Illuminati was a very powerful force in Europe and infiltrated the Masonic lodges and played a part in the French Revolution. Others will say it's not the Illuminati, it's the Lucis Trust. If you've never heard of the Lucis Trust, it used to be called the Lucifer Trust. And this whole thing is Luciferian, and the Lucis Trust used to be right in the United Nations Plaza. And it's working today, and you'll find people like Robert Mueller and Theodore Hirschberg, formerly at Notre Dame, and many of our key and most important people in America are tied into the Lucis Trust, which used to be the Lucifer Trust, and it's all Luciferian. And others are going to say, no, you don't understand. It's the Masons. Do you realize that 14 American presidents have been Masons? Do you realize that people wonder why they took God out of our schools and God out of our public exhibits? Why we can't have four of the Supreme Court judges, of the 6 Supreme Court judges who voted to do that, were Masons, and the Masons have always supported separation of church and state and this wall of church and state because they worship a different God. And this indeed is a Masonic symbol. It isn't an Illuminati symbol. This is the Masons. And others are going to say, well, it isn't really the Masons, it's the New Age. The New Age has infiltrated every aspect of our life today. It's every place. If you haven't read the book, The Aquarian Conspiracy, you can get it, written by Marilyn Ferguson. And, if you look on the front of that, the symbol of theirs almost looks like 3 sixes intertwined. The New Age movement is certainly one of the most powerful movements in the world today. And then there's others who say, oh no, it's the oligarchy, it's the ruling houses of Europe. These are the royal blood that has been there for years, working behind the scenes, because one of them eventually will become the king of Jerusalem, who will be the Antichrist. And then there's the story of the Priory of Sion, which was supposedly a secret society that's been written about in a book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and they claim that this secret society goes back to the bloodline of the union of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, and others will tell you it's the Skull and Bones Society. After all, George Bush came from there, William Buckley came from there, ties into the Central Intelligence Agency, secret society out of Yale.